everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of the Big Picture series of conversations brought to you by Iron Pillar. I am, as always, Mohanjit Jolly, co-founder and partner at Iron Pillar. And today it is an absolute joy and absolute honor to bring to you one of our latest investee CEO and founder, Babu Sivadasan of Jiffy.AI. He's just an incredible human being, a technologist, entrepreneur who has been part of at least a couple of very sizable organizations that he's helped build from early on through IPO into multi-billion-dollar public entities today before starting Jiffy. So with that as the preamble, Babu, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Mohanjit. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. This is one of the highlights of what I do at Iron Pillar. So without much ado, I'm going to dive right in because I think you've had such an incredible journey personally and professionally. I wanted the audience to know a little bit more about you. So if you would, take us through your journey from India to the US, and again, being part of multiple very successful organizations.
I grew up in a small town in India, Trivendarum, a second-tier city. But million plus people. It doesn't matter how small the city is. But grew up there, got a degree in computer science, and the only problem was, so if you in Trivendarum at that time, if you grow up in a computer and get a computer science degree, you don't have any jobs there in town, right? And so irritated me and bothered me because I would have been perfectly happy being there. It's a great place. I don't know. You have visited there, right? So for all those who probably haven't visited, should visit Kerala. It's a great place. And I thought I'll just get a degree and get a job and be there, happy and settle there, right? But you get a degree and then you have to. Growing up in a very middle class family, I didn't want to be a liability for my parents and. One of the first, that if you ask me, higher studies and all never occurred to me. It was always about, find a job as quickly as possible and be on your own, right? So, but that was challenging because there aren't that many software companies. In fact, there was one that I, made it to, but then immediately they decided to move to Bangalore. So I decided at that point, if I'm leaving town, I might as well come all the way to the Bay Area. So I did come to the Bay Area, and I came to the Bay Area with that singular mission that I want to build a small team in my hometown, and so all of my salary, every month, that was my capital, right? Because I didn't know anybody. And so your salary, I took a consulting gig at HP, and that allowed me to have a small team of 5. And then the team grew to 10 people. I ended up having to take one more job, so grew to 20 people. So for a while, I did, for about 18 months, 3 jobs in parallel. But that allowed us to have a team. And, it really helped. So I would watch my bank balance go to zero every month, but the team was there, right? So and we explored a bunch of things. I don't think any of that actually worked out, but along the way, I got an opportunity to work with the Mohan, my mentor, from the early days, and so we started the idea for Stamps.com together, and then it was difficult early on. Mohan will tell you, but then along the way, we found ourselves lucky, and we created, went from a struggling idea to a public company in 2 years. So extremely excited to be part of that journey.
Amazing. Okay, so Stamps. This is late 90s, I take it. Late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah. And so, once you were there, once you had gone public, then at what point did you say, okay, it's time, I've done everything I possibly could here. There's obviously a large entity that I've helped create. when did you think about moving on to the next thing, and how did then, I guess, Envestnet come about?
When the company Stamps was about to go public, Mohan, myself, and Suresh, who was my previous manager on my first job, a few of us, even before the company was, it was about to go public. So at that time, we had this bigger idea that we could take the same technology and disrupt entertainment space. And a lot was written about broadband being widely available. So we had this idea that we would take content, and distribute it over the internet. Just a simple subscription plan that allows you to browse a catalog, watch a movie, or listen to music, that you like. So it was that simple idea. It was not totally new. People were experimenting with it. We thought we could make it work. We had the strong encryption technology, subscription technology. So we thought we had a shot, and but we were way too early, and we didn't capitalize the company well enough either. And then the 99 happened, and we pretty much couldn't pursue the idea, especially if you're in the consumer segment. You need a lot of capital, and we just couldn't pull it through. So disappointed for about 6 months. I just experimented with few things, and again, but one thing I decided was to go completely go into a different field. It felt like it was time for a different field. And financial services, I was always fascinated about financial services, so wanted to explore that, and got together with a friend of mine, and got connected. We visited a few advisors, found some challenges that they were facing in their wealth management practice. So got convinced that that is an opportunity to work on, and didn't realize at that time, how big it could be. It was just thought we'll build $100 million company, and but along the way we realized, so about a year into it, and I thought, okay, we could actually standardize wealth management industry. That's one of the very few industries that was not standardized using a enterprise grade software. So I would start talking about that, people will give you a starry eye to eyes towards you. But that's exactly what we did. We standardized the wealth management practice, with and unified it, fortified it, so that the advisors can deliver a standard of care for their clients, and it's been an incredible journey, with a lot of ups and downs, for Envestnet, but incredible journey. So after Stamps and after the next venture, I decided, I was not feeling happy. The Stamps was an incredible success, but I didn't feel like I earned it. Then I decided, okay, I'm going to commit 20 years to my next gig. So when Envestnet was started, I committed 20 years. So along the way, nothing will distract me. We'll go through ups and downs. We'll run out of cash. But doesn't matter. You will commit yourself, and so I was there for no matter what, right? So 20 years later, I on the 20th year anniversary, I had the good fortune of retiring from there and to start Jiffy.
That's amazing. So if you think about it, especially the young people, many of whom are probably less than 20 years old, that are listening to this, to have a 20-year horizon, 20-year commitment, means a lot. And I remember, when we spoke in the Jiffy context, even here, you're saying, look, this is going to be a long-term play, and I want to create, obviously, a massively large and successful enterprise here in Jiffy. So tell me a little bit, sort of that long-term view or long-term vision and sticking to it. You talked about running out of cash multiple times, even during your consulting days, and then again during Envestnet, sort of going through the ups and downs. What gives you that confidence? What is in you? Is it the upbringing? Is it something that you learned along the way? Were the advisors that you surrounded yourself with? Where does that grit and where does that sort of long-term commitment aspect come from, especially in the world where we live, in 24-hour cycles? Thinking about a 20-year vision is very rare. So where did that come from?
I could be old school, like these days, people talk about founding a company and being a unicorn the next year. So I could be old school, and not something the investors want to hear either, right? Because you all have time frames, and IRR, that you're trying to meet, but. A good company. So the answer to the question is like all of it, like upbringings. My dad was a soldier, like regular soldier in Indian Army, right? So he used to tell me stories about how difficult, in the trenches. Literally, he would spend days without sleep, and he would be in neck deep water. Right? He would say, in the northeastern part of India, right? So I never shied away from hard work. That is the upbringing. Because I always compare to that and whatever you're sitting in the AC room and nothing compares to the kind of work that my dad did or a lot of people around the world do. Right? We all have very easy job. Compared to that. So that then along the way, I've been fortunate to meet some people who have a really strong long-term vision. Like one person that I admire a lot is Joe Manswater, for example, of founder of Morningstar. Kunal Kapoor. Like these are all the CEO of Morningstar. These are all people, or Rich Galandi, of course, the Costco. They've all built iconic companies, and if you ask them, they'll say the same thing. It takes a long-term view, because you are going to, with a short-term view, what happens is the next stumble that you have, you're done, right? Because you're expecting magic to happen in a couple of years, and if that doesn't happen. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. In the startup world, that one thing is, your past performance is not at all a guarantee of future success. You have to mentally be, like a teenager, right? Who's looking at, starting over. It's an incredible level playing field. The starting over, like nobody. Can come in with a big ego and I've done something before. It doesn't matter. Like you're starting from scratch, you're starting in the garage, and it literally means that you're starting, right? So you may have some learnings from the past, but other than that, you are starting over, and you have as much a chance of success as anybody else that is starting over. So you have to come in with that kind of an attitude, the opportunity looks like with Jiffy, we have a phenomenal opportunity if we execute really, really well. And along the way, we'll have a lot of stumbles. We just have to get back up and keep it going.
So actually, for the audience that may not be familiar with Jiffy, if you could just spend a minute just talking about what Jiffy is, what Jiffy does, or is aiming to do and disrupt, that would be helpful.
So towards the tail end of my career at Envestnet, I was trying to take a journey towards automating a lot of activities, and especially I did worry about simply throwing labor at technology problems, right? Because that what that does is you're postponing the inevitable, and then something sudden happens, and all of a sudden you're completely disrupted, right? So wanted to make sure every job that you add, and that's sustainable, right? So which means that you have to be thoughtful about it. Our company went from less than 20 people to 4,000 people over that time frame, right? So wanted to explore what all things that we could automate, so that what you do is sustainable, you can scale well, and you can continue to be efficient. And if you're in technology business, you need sustainable competitive advantage through technology, and that. And in that journey, I was trying to automate a lot of functions. And in that journey, a few things, I experimented with a number of tools, automation, open source, and all these other things. And what occurred to me was that, a meaningful autonomous enterprise, that vision cannot be realized if you don't own few pieces of technology and you integrate them very, very well. I've experimented with RPA technologies and things like that. Those are all desktop, automation. So it doesn't give you the meaningful lift that you need. It does work, but at the same time, if you're looking at truly transformative, autonomous enterprise behavior, that requires a lot of capabilities, deep AI capabilities, the ability to engage directly with the consumer or the end user. Traditionally, if you look at enterprise software, what used to happen is that you have consumer engagement. You're serving a consumer, right? And that line, that engagement is completely separate. And then you make the assumption that everything comes to you in the within the enterprise, and then you have a different set of applications, that are extremely human touch, high human touch, to perform those actions that the consumer may have requested, right? So that's how the enterprise software, the paradigm, if you look at it, that work. But if you look at what is happening today, is that a lot of companies are founded on this concept of vertically integrated, end-to-end, direct, strong consumer engagement, and that goes all the way and take out in between translators, if you will. In the old days, machines really never understood unstructured content well, right? So what we did, we put interpreters, which are ourselves, humans, everywhere. You have a account opening form. Somebody has to take that the consumer signed off. Somebody has to take that and key that in and feed that to downstream systems and things like that to perform those activities. So we have essentially become what I call slaves of computers, because we do a lot of these mundane stuff, because we were the interpreters, that or two systems didn't talk to each other, and then we put ourselves in the middle, right, and said, okay, well, we'll translate it for you. So we were doing that translator job, if you will, and that for the first time, with AI advancements in AI, it is possible that these things can be performed in an autonomous fashion and take ourselves out of that translator job, right, and focus on more creative functions. That's what we are gifted with as humans. So it does. That's a transformative event. So I do believe that the enterprise of the future, in 5 years, in maybe 7 to 10 years, you wouldn't even recognize an enterprise, as it exists. And you would compare that to the enterprise of today. It'll be like the before and after internet. How things have changed. That's how that's kind of transformation that you would expect to see in the enterprise, and the opportunity to play a meaningful role in that transformation. That's an opportunity. It comes once in 20 years, and so very, very excited to play a role in that.
That is absolutely amazing. I mean, this whole notion of intelligent autonomous enterprise, I think, is a bit of the holy grail if you can achieve it. But I think the bits and pieces that you're putting in place, fingers crossed, and I'm biased as an investor, that you absolutely succeed. Now, a couple of other tidbits around Jiffy. One of the things that you've done actually throughout your career is grow sort of companies inorganically, right? So whether at Envestnet, buying Yodlee, for example, which was a big transaction, or even during your Jiffy journey, obviously a lot of the growth and the build is organic and in-house, but you are fairly open to, looking at other, pieces that could be tucked in or acquired. Again, I mean, just talk about what gives you confidence, because a lot of times acquiring and integrating and having cultural fit and all those things become challenges, but you've been able to do it remarkably well. Again, how big a piece is the inorganic piece, I guess, is the first part of the question. And two, what are the success factors to make sure that post acquisition, the integration and then the accretive nature of that acquisition actually performs?
The way you look at it, ideally, if you walk the journey of an organization, like let's say 10 years later, and look at the team at that point, right? And you would say, oh, if I could start with this team, that would have been great, right? So you have to be open-minded. It's about getting along with a team of people and complementary skills. You don't have to solve for all that on day, right? Now, so you can start with day one. Your job is to, try to advance. A startup is all about improving your odds. So you start with a very, very low probability, as you know, right? Now then you're improving your odds along the way. So along the way, you'll find it doesn't matter. Like you can be respectful. You can compete very. Like for example, Envestnet is a great example. We Net Asset Management, the company that we founded, and Envestnet PMC at that time that Jared Bergman founded. Like we were competitors. We compete on every opportunity. But then we found an opportunity. We were struggling as both companies, and we found an opportunity where we are actually had complementary skills. So we came together in 2004. That was a phenomenal change for all of us and as people. Like we figured out a way to get along, and I learned a lot from my partner Jared Bergman. He was phenomenal that way, right? And a lot of learnings, along the way. You're always learning, and you have to go into inorganic activities, like with an intent that hey, this is, especially in the startup growth phase, right? It's not like if you cannot take that team along the journey, you shouldn't do it, right? Because companies do, when they are in the value phase, always do, mergers and acquisitions, where it's a different need there, right? There you're trying to figure out the cost synergies and things like that. Here, the growth phase, you're trying to make 1 + 1 = 3, right? By taking the talent of the teams, that you're coming together with. You just have to have that, we're all equal attitude. So and then when you show that you deeply care, right? Then people will put in their best efforts, and you'll go and make meaningful change.
That's remarkable. I mean, so I seldom come across people who think of it that way. It's usually, it's a zero-sum game, and my win and your loss is what we're after, and I am indeed acquiring you, and I'm bigger than you. So this is a very, very different way of thinking. And I want to ask one question, sort of looking backwards, and then I want to transition into really this sort of ethos. This the nature that you have is just so rare, and one of the things that attracted my partners and myself to you from an investor standpoint. But just going back a little bit, as you look at your remarkable journey, just for the entrepreneurs in the audience, I think some of the challenges that you face. What are sort of maybe a couple of them, and as a result, how did you overcome them, and what would your guidance be, to the entrepreneurs who might be listening to this or watching this?
The early stages is a grind, right? So you will, it's that ups and downs journey. Like you have to build resilience, in you, right? And you have to trust your team, right? So and in my case, there were times, where we ran out of money. I remember writing personal salary checks. So you do what you need to do, right? To keep going, right? So you have to be prepared. Like one day you're at the highest point. The next day you're what you thought will happen doesn't happen. So you have to go through those ups and downs. To the extent that sometimes you doubt yourself, right? So am I capable of this, right? And then there are many times that you will have self-doubts about yourself, and you just have to build that. It's not something that you can teach. It is something that you go through that experience, and you have to build that resilience. So in my case, I am perfectly, I always tell myself, it doesn't matter what I have today. If I have to go down to zero, I will still be happy. So that attitude helps me, right? So I am willing to risk everything for the right cause, and know that I'll lose it all, right? And still I'll be happy, because that upbringing, right? Where I had that start, where I started, that was a happy place.
Well, that's remarkable, but I must say, please get your sleep. I don't want you sleeping just 4 hours a night. But here's what's interesting, right? So I'm going to transition to you as a person and you as a giver. It's just been remarkable to me to observe you and get to know you over the past year or two. So let's start with you as a board member and advisor to other startups, right? So which is something that I've seen in you. Again, what compelled you to do that? And if you want to talk about one of your companies that you're involved with, that's fine too. But really, again, what motivates you? What gets you going? You've got enough going on with Jiffy itself, but to carve out time to give to others, again, is remarkable.
That again, I've followed this principle that you don't have to wait. You don't have to build a lot of assets before you start deploying. It's like in investing they teach you start early, right? Start very, very early, so I've done that. So I followed that. So very early on, I may have seen pockets of success, but even at that very early, where you don't have enough assets, but I found ways to, again, I was perfectly happy with the zero bank balance. So wherever I had financial assets, I deployed that right away. So for the simple reason that I enjoy the process of starting. I believe I'm a creator myself. And I love partnering with others who are creating, right? So that's what transformation is all about. A lot of people creating pursuing unique ideas that are probably impossible at the beginning, but you still try with all your heart, right? Trying to pursue that. So I've very, very early on, towards late 90s, or where I didn't have a lot to deploy, but I still figured out okay, there's always this little thing that I could do. So for I've personally pursued, people know me by the successes that I've created, but there were about 17 ideas or things like that that I was part of that failed miserably, right? So I would say personally, I can say my hit rate is more or less like your venture hit rate. So, but that doesn't mean you stop. Early on, I was in India early on when others were, when the startup ecosystem was just in the nascent stages. So that was good, and a few companies. So the SaaS movement, that a lot of companies in India started with that as a next wave, right? And I was fortunate to be part of some of those companies, and one that CareStack, in the dental practice management space, vertical SaaS, very excited about that, the progress that they're making, and again in the founder I found a very compelling nothing, no matter what happens, and I'm going to pursue and continue to keep it moving. Right? That kind of attitude, which resonates with me a lot. So when you see opportunities like that, and to work partner with founders like that, you take the chance. You make a bet on them any day.
One thing I must say is I've been absolutely blown away with the community feel, by the way, that entrepreneurs and people and executives from Kerala have. I have the honor of working with Anand, my colleague, who happens to be from that part of India, and I was not exposed to it, growing up in the north and so on. But once I've gotten to know that particular community, the whole notion of giving back and paying it forward just comes more naturally, I think, to people from Kerala than perhaps other parts of the country. So I'm gonna double click on that a little bit, and I know that, for example, you founded this particular foundation called Paanini. And even in Jiffy's case, I think you've decided that most of the upside, perhaps that accrues from Jiffy's success, should accrue to this particular foundation. So again, for the audience, just talk a little bit about what this foundation is, what it does, and what again compelled you to launch it in the first place.
That's at my stage in life, you're looking to make sure you haven't left anything that you haven't attempted, right? Or you wanted to do something that you haven't really pursued. So last 5 years of Envestnet, I've been thinking a lot. I've always wanted the business models that try to combine the for-profit and non-profit aspects at the same time. Salesforce did it in their own way, but so I wanted to do that. That I thought, it's not something you accumulate a lot of success, and then after 20 years, it's you don't have to wait that long. And again, going back to, you can start early and do meaningful things, right? Then as I started zeroing in on the AI, technology and what I wanted to do next, especially around autonomous enterprise. As an angel investor, I get a lot of pitches from aspiring entrepreneurs. So a lot of them, I was surprised. They all come in and say, "Oh, we put 3 million people out of work, with our AI technology," or we put, we take on the million people's work, with our technology, and that generates massive savings and things like that. So that was the pitch. And then I always would ask, because I started my career primarily with the goal of generating a lot of jobs, because I had difficulty landing my first job, right? And so I changed my view, right? Rather than finding a job, you start creating jobs for yourself first, and along with that, a whole bunch of other people. Since we are taking on AI, building an AI company, I thought founders have enormous responsibility and enormous influence in how we embrace the change, unlike what you've done in the past. So others, at Industrial Revolution, Agricultural Revolution, a lot of companies succeeded, a lot of people succeeded, but then it was a lot of people struggled in the process as well, because you built all those success on their backs. So wanted to make sure we are thoughtful about it. So I thought, okay, we would on one end be ruthless about innovation, but then if there is a way you could deploy that success that you create, to help the same people that may be getting affected, right? Now, doesn't mean that they're getting fully displaced, but you could figure out ways to help them to get other opportunities, or every organization is finding talent to be challenging, right? So there are a lot of job opportunities, but there is a skills mismatch. So if you could figure out a way to invest in that, so prepare them for the next set of jobs, so then you can balance the two. And if every AI company did that, so I thought that'll be phenomenal. So we wanted to make a strong commitment on day one. So day one, I thought as a founder, I could make that statement. So 80 to 85% of founder equity, of mine, because I can make the case with everybody, but I can't force anybody to do it, right? No, but at least you could, what I could control, I could do, right? And so that's how we created the foundation and, kind of started the journey that way, so because you could also change along the way, right? We are all humans, so I wanted to make sure something is set in motion that is irreversible on day one. So the idea was that the foundation will focus on how do you, it's a largest individual shareholder, right? And so a lot of the wealth that we accumulate, could be deployed towards people whom we are affecting in one way or the other.
That's very A, forward thinking. B, I hope and I wish that that more entrepreneurs would follow that lead, and I'm sure within the community, at least as a starting point, that will be the case. I do want to mention for the audience that I think as a corollary to what you just said, you own more in terms of equity in the company directly through your preferred financing, I think, than you do through your common shareholding, which again, you may be the only company in the world, only startup in the world where that's true, and says a lot about you. The final thread I just want to focus on, because all of it sort of leads to something that people are starting to talk about more and more, which is this notion of culture, right? So in the time that we're living in, where finding talent, retaining talent, I mean, those are some of the bigger issues that that entrepreneurs are dealing with. I think culture and creating almost a cult-like feeling behind a company and its mission and its purpose may be one of the most impactful ways of both attracting and retaining talent. So tell me a little bit about the culture that you are building or trying to build at Jiffy. What are the key aspects of it? And I'm assuming, again, your upbringing, part of what you defined through your thinking on day one about setting up the foundation, etc., are all part and parcel of this sort of culture definition, within Jiffy. But just spend a couple of minutes on how you think about culture and people. I mean, that we're all at the end of the day in the people business, and
yeah.
so how are you implementing that, I guess, within Jiffy?
You have to, as a leader, you have to live and breathe, what you tell others, right? You have to feel it, you have to. So this is all that I think about. Jiffy is all I think about every single minute. So we want people who are completely committed to the cause, and if you especially the way we are trying to balance that to innovation strong. Our mantra is totally committed to innovation, which means that we are ruthless about it. We want that best product, best automated enterprise. That commitment is totally there, right? But then at the same time, equally compassionate. Can you balance the two? We look for people who have that, and who feel at the end of the day, if you talk to your children, the next generation, that's what they want to see. They want to see companies, with strong social sense of social responsibility. So, and then we are not, if we are building a phenomenally successful company, they are the ones that will carry forward. We will be history very soon, but we want to be an independent company. We want to be an iconic company. And you don't get there if you cannot inspire that next generation. And so our founding ethos and what we are trying to do, we believe, I listen to, my kids and their friends, and they're all wired that way. So if you look at the previous generation, our generation was about, okay, we wanted to, build phenomenal things and didn't pay as much attention to the social aspects of it. But today's generation is very different. They are wired that way, and so if you can resonate, to them, right? So you build for them, right? Really. right? And then they'll take it forward, right? Otherwise, what happens is you'll take it as far as possible, but then there is it dies right there, right? Because if you can't inspire that next generation, so this compassionate approach, to innovation, right? While you are being ruthless about innovation, so that we're very excited about. We had to make adjustments. Our leadership, said, okay, well, we all will pay cuts, and so that we can protect key people, and our people, right? So that you never shy away from responsibility. So and then people see that, and you build a culture around responsibility. We use this framework called richer framework. It's not had certain values, and then we looked at them and it reads richer if you organize them. so around responsibility, innovation, client centricity, being humble, right, and pursuing being reasonable about things. It has worked so far, and it'll very confident that it'll continue to work. So obviously we are coming into a space where we are competing against the best in the world with trillions of dollars of market cap and a lot of cash, right? But one thing is you can take on all of that with a lot of heart. That's what we believe.
Let's double click on that, and I'll weave it into my second to last question. But now that you brought up this notion of competing with these giants with massive balance sheets and market caps, so what is it that let's say differentiates you, and you're able to penetrate again these relatively large enterprises where you've had early success? Is it a combination of people and tech and this sort of ruthless sort of innovation thought process that you have, or is there something different than that's really worked for you? And weave that into, I guess, the second to last question is, what are the key sort of nuggets of wisdom? And that's the phrase I use in these podcasts for the entrepreneurs, right? Especially many of them, I'm sure, are running against incumbents. Nobody got fired for hiring IBM kind of notion still persists. And so for the startups, as you said at the early going, all you're trying to do is increase the odds. And so, what was it in whether it's positioning, whether it's connections, whether it's a go-to-market strategy that was, gave you that early success?
I wouldn't claim a lot of success yet, but the early success, we thought, we need to hear, as founders, we need to hear directly from the clients. So we, first couple of years, we didn't have a real sales team, right? Because we wanted all of us to tell the story, right? So we wanted to hear from the client so that the product can continue to get tweaked, and hired salespeople will never be good at listening to a client and understanding and have that product centricity, right? Which founders have. So we have done that for first couple of years. We've listened to the clients and listened to the prospects, understood the problem that they're trying to navigate. And a lot of from the first wave of, for example, automation. If you look at RPA and things like that, it was all about obvious things, that you try to automate, right? But then as you move forward, people are thinking about, real automation, right? Intelligent automation, where that transformation that you're trying to see happen. Now, it's no longer about, okay, human was doing something and I replaced that with a bot. People are really asking the question, should I even be doing this process? Because this has been 20 years old, right? So because putting duct tape around something is only going to extend the life. You're not transforming your enterprise, and a lot of organizations are actually trying to transform their enterprise. And if you think about a bank, they are under constant threat from neobanks and all these really nifty end-to-end vertically integrated stack. There is no way you can be as effective if all you have done is putting tape around things, that or a broken process, you just save some cost out of it. You still have a broken process, is what I'm saying. So you have to have the tools and capability that allows you to go head to head with and create those vertically integrated experiences. That's what an autonomous enterprise enabling technology is supposed to provide you with. So we define the term hyper app. These are extremely autonomous applications. That have two characteristics. One, it can engage with the consumer or the end client, and it's vertically integrated, eliminating the lot of middle and back office. Is automated, right? So you have that end-to-end integrated experience, and you overseen by humans.
Got it. But then I guess on the nuggets of wisdom aspect of it. So again, if you look at your entire journey over the past several decades, what are 2 or 3 compelling things that come to mind for you that entrepreneurs need to be thinking about? I mean, you've mentioned, of course, resiliency is one, and you talked about talking directly to clients, which is absolutely key. Is there anything else, especially when you go through the downturns, because we may be in the middle of it, this year, given what's going on in the markets, and I'm sure it's going to percolate or trickle down to startups as well. What should they be thinking about? How should they plan for those contingencies?
Third dimension, when you go through those downs, is surrounding yourself with people who are sounding boards, advisors, people who you will be surprised that a lot of people will volunteer time. Like if only you can reach them, right? So making sure you have a team, right? You don't want to take on all this load yourself, which means that you have to treat them fairly, and you have to respect the role, right? And you have to be willing to share everything, right? Meaning including the fruits of that hard work, in terms of equity or other things. You have to be willing to do that, and having that people your own, because when you go through those down times, they are the ones that is there for you, right? And then the broader set of advisors, you're constantly talking to your primary investors. They are your best friend, early on.
No, and you preempted my final question, by the way, by just saying that. But if you wanted to add anything else, look, I mean, given again your pedigree, just who you are, it was not surprising that you had multiple options, multiple term sheets during the last fundraise where we were fortunate enough to come in. But what did what was the filter that you were using in that particular moment, given where Jiffy is today, decide that, hey, you're going to go, with these and not with the others? Did it come down to people? Did it come down to something totally?
It always comes down to people. Ecosystem. We collected money from C-suite executives, founders of iconic companies before. It was all with that intent. Like, you have people that you can reach out to, right? And learn from them. So it comes down to with Ann Pillar. It came down to the same. Like, I've known you, and we have had the luxury of knowing each other for a longer time, and I've seen how you operate and how you're helpful to the entrepreneurs. So that's all matters. And the alignment of interest about our time horizon and things like that, and what we are about doing, and the total alignment with the way we are approaching it with the foundation and things like that. And Mohanjit, as a friend, I've seen you operate. Anytime I needed help, you've always, you're a master connector that way. So I appreciate that.
You are too kind. I look up to you so much, Babu. I mean, you are a gem of a human being and a remarkable, entrepreneur, technologist, and we're humbled, thrilled, delighted to be, a small part of the big journey with Jiffy. So look, with that, I want to conclude today's episode. Thank you so much for your time, for your wisdom, and for all that you're doing, not just within Jiffy for people affiliated with Jiffy, but more broadly through the foundation and the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Mohanjit. Okay, it's been a pleasure.